what I will say is, even though we control 10 councils now, and we've committed, as we did, we said before the elections on May the 1st, we will pull the levers of power available to us with all of our might. But the levers in local government are not particularly powerful, is the reality, right? Most of the power lies in Westminster. Let me give you an example. Let's take these illegal migrants as being deposited in communities. So either in hotels or HMOs, which are houses of multiple occupancy. And you have this sleight of hand, this awful sleight of hand where Labour will say, oh, look, we're closing this migrant hotel. Okay, are you deporting them? Are you deporting those illegal migrants? No. But what they're doing is they're just depositing them into local communities, which like inside these multiple occupancy homes. Now, local people are giving no warning about this. They're given no say. The Home Secretary, Vet Cooper, basically has a big red button that nukes any opposition to this. And then we're also aware that Serco, one of the big national contractors in this country that win government contracts, all sorts of things, they are working with the Home Secretary, with the Home Office, to deposit these people into. They come over in small boats, they get free everything, and they get deposited into local communities with no say for those local communities. And they are offering 5 to 7 year contracts to landlords, 25% above market rates. And we know this to be a fact. You talk about betrayal of your own people. We have spoken to multiple veterans, one of whom suffers from PTSD, who served this country with gallantry. One of them did 3 tours, who have been evicted forcibly, using Section 21 notices. So these are things that landlords can issue a tenant to get them out. Why? Because that landlord has been offered a crazy. How can that veteran compete with a 5 to 7 year contract, 25% above market rates? So our own veterans are being turfed out by landlords and being priced out of the market to make space for people whose only contribution to this country was to come here illegally and then, frankly, leech off the state. So, again, there's a lot of common themes in these conversations, right? And so, therefore, there's this sense of utter betrayal. I tweeted out a few months ago, and all that's happened since then is that my conviction on this has increased, which is that if some formidable foreign adversary had somehow gotten some Manchurian candidate or had some ability to control the apparatus of the British state without any of us knowing, and their goal was to destroy the country slowly, because if they did it too quickly, it might be too obvious. It's really difficult to see how they'd have made decisions different to everyone who's been sitting around the cabinet table over the last 15 years. Anyone watching the show knows that I would agree with that largely. But it's really scary. For that statement to be
what actually
kind of undeniable.
What scares me more, actually, is that you're actually in there and cannot change things, it seems.
Well, so hold on. So let me expand on that. So the way the council works is you have councillors elected. If you have a majority, in 10 of the councils we have a majority, we have a leader, and that leader then, quote, runs the council. But the reason I say nominally is because the chief executive is a bureaucrat. It's a civil servant. They persist through through elections, right? If you're in any doubt about who really runs the council, and this is not me doing a disservice to our politicians, I'm talking about the system. Our councillors are fighting tooth and nail for their people. But I'll give you some examples of where this has already come. We've already seen this manifest. The council CEOs almost invariably are earning more than £200,000 a year.
How are the CEOs getting to that position? They're not
generally
elected.
Through a life of mediocrity inside the public space.
So eventually, and can you get rid of them?
It is possible, but let me just make the point though. Sorry. So let's say like £200,000 to £240,000 as a CEO. The council leader earns like 40, 50 grand. Wow. So what does that tell you? And that's the council leader, right? So what does that tell you about who really runs the council? Now, yes, you can in theory, but let me give you
in theory what?
In theory, the council can get rid of the chief executive, in theory. But there's a whole load of baked-in statutory regulation about that. Employment law is kind of stacked in their favour, and they have these lawyers, they call them monitoring officers, who are hired by the chief executive, usually on crazy salaries as well. Almost every single one I've seen, this is all public record, the one in Kent earns £138,000 a year. They are there to protect the chief. Ultimately, they are there to protect the chief executive and the other bureaucrats. And so, look, I'm not saying every single chief executive of a council is a bad person and working. That's not my position. There are some that definitely are. You know, we can point to one in Warwickshire, where
is this a reform held?
Yes, yes. So we are the largest party there. We don't have a majority overall, but we are the largest party. And you know, one of the things that reform ran on, a simple but important part of the platform, was flags being flown on council premises. The only flags that would be allowed would be the Union Jack, the St George's flag, because these are English councils where there were elections, the county flags, and the flags of our armed forces and our monarch, right? No political activist flags, no flags of foreign countries. And the council leader, sent her an email saying, please, can you take down, I think it was the pride flag at the time, because that's not in keeping with this policy. And she actually replied in writing, extraordinarily, actually tweeted this saying, no, I'm not going to comply with your request, which is a really interesting thing, because normally the way this resistance happens, or the way that politicians are undermined by the blob, is in quite a covert way, kind of Yes Minister. Maybe your American viewers probably won't know that show. A lot of British people will, in a very Humphrey Yes Minister way. This was just, absolutely shameless. No, I'm not going to do it.
And she has the authority over the council leader.
No, not technically, but all of the employees in the council ultimately report to the chief executive. Do you see where? So because the chief executive, the lawyers, so the chief executive has a whole bunch of direct reports into them. They have, so who is actually going to go and take the flag down? It would need to be instructed by the chief executive.
Right. Okay.
And so if the chief executive is unwilling to take instruction from the elected leader, you have something of a constitutional crisis there in a country that has no written constitution. And look, you can say this is just flags here, whatever. Number one, it's not just flags. It means something. Our flag means something. Number two, if it was a really visible and obvious piece of evidence that actually British people can vote for somebody, and civil servants will not just resist it covertly, but resist it openly. Now, there's a process that's ongoing there. That situation is developing. By the way, this is a county council and it's flags. Imagine how that now translates at national level. So look, what I will say is we're not taking this lying down. There's a situation that's unfolding there. Our council leader is not backing down. Our politicians will not back down. But I will say this: in order for us to transform the country in the way that we need to, it's going to take. We need a majority inside Westminster, and this is the silver lining on the cloud, right? In America, one of the reasons Elon got so frustrated with his political endeavors was because he was going out there trying to save lots of money, but the founding fathers in America were at pains to ensure that the purse strings were in the hands of Congress, not the executive branch, not the president. In the United Kingdom, if Reform has a majority of Spartan-like, turquoise-blooded MPs behind Nigel and a formidable cabinet, we can transform this country.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode. And for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.